Wales. Right, from 2 o'clock this afternoon, the streets of central London are going to be gridlocked by taxi drivers. That's the plan. Black cab and private hire drivers will be protesting against Transport for London because they've licensed a new taxi company called Uber, which they claim breaks the rules. The cabbies say that the app which Uber taxis have uses GPS technology and it equates to a taxi meter, which are only allowed by licensed black cabs. Let's talk to Garrett Emerson, who's from Transport for London. Very good morning to you, Garrett.
Good morning.
Why did you give Uber the licence in the first place? Because it seems to be the kind of the crux of the problem here.
Well, Uber applied to us back in 2012 to become a licensed private hire operator in London, and they passed all the necessary checks and continue to comply with all the requirements of being a private hire operator. Most recently, very thorough and comprehensive check of all their records and the way they carry out their business. So that, frankly, there's no reason not to license them as a private hire operator.
The way that they work is kind of sort of in moving with modern times, more to do with your smartphone and the way you can kind of book them and so on. Can you understand why, in inverted commas, the old-fashioned cabbies are getting annoyed?
Well, yeah, I mean, the question that the black cab traders are saying is they're challenging that the app that the drivers use in the vehicle, which sits on a smartphone in the cabbie's in the driver's pocket or wherever, is a taximeter. Now, of course, that hinges on the way taximeter is defined in the legislation, which is not that old. It was written in 1998, but of course it was written at a time before anybody had smartphones and before anybody understood, what might be capable in terms of app technology. And it has some important sort of qualifications around. It's actually the vehicle that cannot be equipped with a taximeter, and I don't think anybody with a smartphone in their pocket or handbag would necessarily believe that when they get in their car, their vehicle is suddenly equipped with the device. They'd probably say they are. And it also says the device is about, that's in the vehicle is about calculating the fare by time and distance. Well, these devices don't do that. All they do is pass GPS coordinates.
They do it via distance, don't they?
Well, it's not illegal to charge for private hire journeys by time and distance. It's only illegal to do it via a taximeter in the vehicle. Now, the calculation is not being done in the vehicle. The only thing that
it's been done in the vehicle. It's just not being done in something attached to the vehicle.
Yeah, the only thing
that you put them on.
The only thing this device is doing is transmitting a GPS satellite location. Now, this is no different. It could be argued, as Uber would argue, it's no different to a cabbie ringing up his operator at the beginning of the journey and saying, I'm in Waterloo, and then at the end of the journey saying, I'm at Liverpool Street now, I've travelled 2.5 miles, it's taken me 40 minutes, how much do I charge? And the operator is doing a calculation on a notepad or on a calculator and saying, the fare's this. All that's happened is that's being automated. So for those reasons, it's not necessarily that clear whether this is a taximeter or not, or it constitutes a taximeter or not. The black cab trade apps say absolutely it does. Uber say absolutely it doesn't. We think, having looked at it on balance, probably not, but we can't be sure. And it's certainly, given this is a criminal offence to have a taximeter in a private hire vehicle, the level of sort of certainty that you need to take a criminal prosecution is nowhere near met. So the only sensible thing for us to do is to go to the High Court and seek a declaration on the definition of the 1998 legislation, which is what we've said we're going to do and what we're doing as fast as we can. And the taxi trade and the private hire trade and indeed Uber themselves all think this is a sensible idea, which means actually going out on the streets of London today and creating disruption for tens of thousands of Londoners and costing the economy millions of pounds, no doubt, is really quite a pointless activity. So from that reason, we think this is totally unnecessary.
It might be pointless in your mind, but if you're a taxi driver who studied the knowledge and you kind of know your way around London so you can avoid any kind of traffic hotspots, and then you've got people who are just using GPS, then it's kind of a nice way of proving your point, isn't it? Because you kind of block off a lot of the streets and these people won't know the way around.
Well, I don't think if the level of disruption they're anticipating to cause is as such as they're expecting, then I don't think anybody will be making their way around some parts of central London for part of this afternoon. Taxi drivers, private hire drivers, or anybody else. That can't be to anybody's good. But I think the private, the taxi trade, the black cab is unique around the world, and London taxi drivers are famed for their knowledge. They're regularly voted the best cabbies in the world, and they are loved by Londoners and tourists alike for their ability to get people to where they want to go quickly and fast. And I'm sure that, whatever technology you bring in place, that knowledge, it will still be valued and second to none. I mean, there's been technology in the industry for many years. This is not a new thing as such. You've had radio circuits and the ability to order a private hire vehicle, for many years, not only in London but across the rest of the country.
Those guys go through a lot of regulation as well, don't they? In order to be either a private hire cab or to be involved in being a black cab driver as well. Are these drivers from Uber screened? How are they regulated?
Yeah, it's exactly the same. They are private hire drivers, and they are licensed by us, and their vehicles have to be licensed by us in exactly the same way as any other private hire driver or indeed any other black cab driver.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much for kind of giving us the background to that one. That's Garrett Emerson, who's from Transport for London. Let's talk now to Steve Garelick, who's from GMB Professional Drivers. Steve, welcome to the programme.
Thanks, Stefan.
Why are your drivers protesting against this then?
Well, we represent both private hire and taxi drivers, and not just in London, but throughout the home counties as well in our particular branch. And yes, it's true that the drivers who are working for Uber have passed all checks, and yes, it's true to a certain extent that Uber now do pass all checks, although 2 years ago I was questioning the validity of the granting of the licence to the then John Mason, who was in charge of the licensing process and who was head of the TPH division at TfL, it's Transport and Private Hire, Taxi and Private Hire, should I say. The challenge to the meter is it's not just about the meter, it's about the applying for hire issue and the immediacy of hire with drivers being nearby.
Yeah.
You've got to bear in mind that LTDA, the Licensed Taxi Driver Association, have just sent out prosecution notices to 6 private hire drivers who they've accused of touting.
Right.
And touting is a huge issue within private hire and taxi throughout the country. It's not unique to London. And not only is Uber an app that is of concern, there are other apps and companies working from overseas, such as Uber, where they have a shell company who use their finances out of the country. So in Uber's case, it goes through Holland, and therefore, again, taxes being evaded in our view. There seems to be issues over vatability and how drivers are vatted from what we can see, although that's yet to be proven. In the case of the fact, you've got a company doing just like Amazon has done and others where the tax isn't coming into the coffers of the UK. They've got a company who is licensed in London, but all of the billing for your journey goes through Holland. And then you've got another thing called surge pricing. I just want to bring this on surge pricing. So if it's busy, or normally with your local car firm, you'll know it's going to cost you, I know, £5 to get into Aberystwyth as an example.
Right.
Okay, and you know that's what the journey is going to be. If it's busy on Uber, you might find at the end of the journey you get a bill for £25. They'll do this surge pricing thing, which means you, the consumer, suddenly are hit with a larger bill. And you can see consistently on social media like Twitter where people are saying, I've been billed for this. I didn't expect to pay that. I've been billed for this. Now, frankly, you and I don't go into a supermarket and expect, oh, it's busy, we haven't got enough checkout staff. We won't charge you £60 a day, we'll charge you 80.
Sure, but I can go online and I can buy my shopping online. Should you guys not be sort of moving with the times in terms of the sort of technology side of things with this and kind of taking on board what Uber are doing rather than complaining about it?
No, there's any number of apps available from both private hire and taxi organisations. There's Get Taxi, there's obviously Halo, which has become a little less popular since they've gone for a private hire licence. There is, other apps, but, local minicab firms normally have an app of some sort nowadays.
Yeah.
It's how it's policed, how it's licensed, and how it's done. And there are other issues today. There are other concerns over TfL, over speed of licences being granted and other little gripes, and they are getting there. But like any large organisation, they can sometimes be a little slow to react. And even with technology, people are slow to react, and it moves very fast nowadays.
Steve, thank you very much for your time and for giving your sort of perspective on things. Got a statement from Uber as well. They say they are committed to keeping London moving. Wednesday will be treated like any other busy day for us, and our London team is all set up to keep the city moving. Our technology allows us to identify areas where demand is high, and we'll be helping Londoners to get around the town very quickly and efficiently at an affordable price. While the cabbies' protests may seek to bring London to a standstill, we will be on hand to get Londoners from A to B.